is to look into the importance of measuring how well we do online. So in other words, we look into ideas and approaches to understand how we can do well by looking at analytics, right? And if you wonder what analytics are just websites that crunch hundreds of thousands of data and information for us while providing us with relevant reports. So in other words, what a website does and an application, a web app, which what analytics are, they go behind the scene, do all of these fantastic calculations and number crunching activities so that they can come in front of us and give us some ideas on how well we do. Whether that's around traffic, around keywords, around SEO, around pay-per-click advertising, whatever it is, they will tell us how well we've done so far, right? They will also tell us on things that don't go so good for our business. So in other words, that's why I called this session Understanding E-commerce through Analytics, because in addition to actually doing well, you can understand your business better if you had a closer look at specific activities on your e-commerce business and how well you can improve, right? So let's look at some of the things and what we need to think about whenever we want to improve our online presence and in general our online business as well. First and foremost, we need to know what are we going to measure, right? What does it matter? What are the things that really matter that we need to measure, right? Now, if you had a blog, what would you be measuring? If you had a blog, what would be something that you would very much like to measure?
How many people?
How many people visit you, right? How many people subscribe to your blog? How many people are spending quite a good amount of time in your blog? How many people spending more than 5 minutes? Because you've got a blog post that publishes some of your YouTube videos and somebody's staying only 15-20 seconds and you've got videos of 20-40 minutes, right? Then actually you're doing something wrong, which means that you're either attracting wrong readers, right? Or what you're providing is not relevant, okay? And in analytics, that's called bounce rate. So what's the amount of people that are spending time on your website, do something within your website, and how many of those spend more than 30 seconds or more than a minute on your website, okay? And if you've got a blog, again, as I said to you earlier, you're probably publishing either, I don't know, embedding a YouTube video, or maybe you're writing a post. But whatever you're doing, you want people to spend more time in there, right? So knowing how much people spend time in your blog is really important. But in addition to that, what else would you want to know? You would want to know where those people are coming from, right? So if you've got a pretty good audience coming from Spain, maybe you should consider, trying to recruit some blogger in Spain that actually writes, or set up another blog that will work together with yours to reach out to the other audience. Now, if you had an e-commerce site, let's look at the business side of things, and you were only selling something in the UK, but when you look at Google Analytics, for instance, you are getting most of the traffic from Spain, you need to try and consider finding a fulfillment center in there, or like a warehouse in there, then you can start selling in Spain as well. Because otherwise, as a business, you're missing out. And you can be missing out big time. So that's why analytics help us understand business more. Looking at specific activities on e-commerce sites without looking at the details won't mean much. But if we start to dig deep into really specific activities, from the keywords, from the trends, from traffic, from advertising, social media, SEO, everything else, then we're going to get a really good picture, which means that we can then go ahead and improve lots of things within our website. And that's why measuring matters. But of course, we need to measure what matters, not everything, right? but measure things that matter. And depending on the business, we'll look at some of the ideas. So, the second one is, how do you do that? How do you measure things? Of course, you'll do that through tools. And tools are those websites that are, in a way, applications that process hundreds of thousands of data for us to give us reports that are relevant to our business, right? So there are free ones, like Google Analytics, but there are commercial ones as well. There are tools that you can pay for to track your traffic, to track your keywords, to track your links, to track your purchase behavior, to track your conversion rates, click-through rates, everything else, right? And then the next one is about choosing what to use to be able to learn more about your business, okay? And then of course, in general, you'll probably start with Google Analytics because it's free, and then you'll go ahead and maybe use other ones as well. And we'll look in some of the tool insights and what are some of the key things you need to be aware of. And then, last but not least, is the idea of deciding what needs reporting back. Whether that's reporting to yourself, or reporting to your partner, or reporting to your boss, you need to identify things that are worth reporting. In other words, things that are going to help us make big business decisions because of those stats. So instead of just saying, I'm going to report everything back, you report key things that help you improve the business. Whether that's around content, whether that's around usability, or keywords, or links, or customer journey, whatever it is, you need to report back things that can help us improve the future of our business. And ultimately, if you cannot measure, and if you're not measuring, you can't improve, because you've got no idea what's going wrong with business. Sometimes when you go out in the industry, you'll meet up entrepreneurs or other business people who've got e-commerce sites who look fantastic, and they work really well, but they're not doing well at all. And when you talk to them and you'll ask, why do you think that's the case? And they say, well, we've got no idea, we tried everything. And then the next question from you is going to be something like this: everything? How well your numbers are looking? Have you looked at analytics? What are some of the key metrics that you are analyzing, and why? What those metrics are telling you? And very soon you'll start to understand that a pretty good, not in every case, but a pretty good amount of businesses will lag behind in really getting an understanding as to what happens behind the scene and how they can improve. Now, large companies do a pretty good job because they've got teams of people who sit behind the scene and then keep an eye on everything, right? But small companies struggle with it because of resources and sometimes on knowledge as well, which is when you can come in. That could be your first project. So, key metrics, what it matters, right? Well, the first one definitely is visitors. You need to know what's the amount of visitors, what's the overall traffic volume. Now, I gave you the example earlier. The reason why you need to look at visitors, and specifically the geographic distribution as to where these guys are coming from, is really important because it somehow informs you on the next things you can do with the business, right? It somehow tells you, informs your decision making for the future, right? So that's why analytics are very powerful, a lot more than people think. In fact, if you're really good with analytics, you can go out in London now and make hundreds of thousands of pounds as a consultant, right? If you can go to any of these small or large e-commerce websites and tell them that you can help them improve their business by looking at the data and the stats and the numbers and analytics behind the scene, you can earn more than £100,000 every year, just as an independent consultant. But of course, you've got to tell them that you've got a strong backing for it. You've got to tell them that you can look at the numbers, look at the competition, do a bit of quick intelligence thing, right? And then come up with something that would inform their decision making on the changes that need to be done on the website and hopefully increase the conversion rate. But again, you need to have a very clear picture as to how that's going to work. And again, it's very attractive as well because it's very clever. You need to be, it's a type of service that can get better as you get more clients and as you get more experience, right? And now with a lot more tools out there that we can help to learn more about businesses, it's going to be a lot easier. The next one is top referring traffic, for instance. We need to know which are those most highly referring traffic sources on the web. Now, not surprisingly, social media is a big referring traffic, right? So in other words, when you start to look at the traffic behind the scene, you start to get really clear guides whether you can ignore social media altogether. In fact, even if you don't have social media presence at all, you start to see quite a big traffic coming from social media. So then, as a business, what that does, it tells you that you're going to go there in that social space and do a good job. Because if you're not doing a good job, you will be missing out. And if you're missing out, there's no business, right? Frequency, so how often those people are coming along. If you have people just coming once at your website, yeah, it's fine, but that's not going to do much for you. But if you've got regular visits from those regular places all the time, then that tells you that you're going to invest a lot more time into those, to that target audience. And then ultimately, you look at the conversion rate. What is the conversion? What's the percentage of your conversion in your website? And we said the conversion rate was a desired action that we want our customers to take. That desired action is not always about selling. It is about getting something, getting a goal achieved of yours. A goal can be increasing the number of subscribers, or getting people to visit your website, or getting people to view or download something. It's not always about selling, right? But that will be reflected based on the business you've got, right? Or a blog. If you're going to blog, your goal is always going to be around increasing the number of readers you've got. Because if you end up having huge amount of readers that engage with you all the time, you have got a business. If you want to build a revenue model around it, that's your choice, but you do have a business. Because from that one, you can do anything you like. You can write a book, you can organize a conference, you can organize an event, you can start a new business, or like an e-commerce site aside to it, and just links or drive some of that traffic from that blog to your e-commerce site. You can do all sorts of things. And that's exactly why large social networking sites, including blogs, are so powerful. They're yet so simple, but they're very powerful. Because they've got this attention from hundreds of thousands of people. And that ultimately puts you in a front row seat to do pretty much anything that you want with your business. So these are some of the key metrics to be thinking about. Again, why analytics? Why do we have to care about analytics? Well, it's really difficult to grow the business unless we know what's working, what's not working, right? Or it's really hard to improve things if we don't know what's happening behind the scene. But if we know what's happening behind the scenes, it becomes a lot easier. Once you know that a friend of yours is upset, right? And you get some other friends to tell you why he or she is upset, it gets a lot easier to put things right. Not very, very straightforward, but you've got a chance because you know when things went wrong. And you start to look into that and you can start to find ways of improving that. Right? It's the same with business. So if you start to really get into analytics and metrics and get a clear idea as to how things work out, you start to either introduce facilities or landing pages or things on the way so that you can improve that business. But again, you've got to have all eyes on analytics behind the scene that on activities that happen. And one company that does an incredible job is Amazon. I wish we could visit some of their teams in the UK, right, that look at analytics. Because you would be amazed as to how much of the numbers they look into, how much of the traffic info they're looking into, how much of the keywords, customer journeys, click-through rates, call to actions, landing pages, everything else. You'd be amazed as to how much their work is improved, changed and modified based on what they learn from us, based on what they learn from customer behavior. And because they're so big, they've got their own tools as well. I'm sure they benefit from Google Analytics and these other monitoring tools, but they probably have got a huge amount of information databases of their own. They really look into things that they do. But it'll be really interesting to see how much of their work is turning into business. And they know that. They know that very, very clearly because they can see. They can see how much conversion rate is being improved based on the changes they have made. And because they do that A/B testing that we talked about last time in the customer journey, they can really quickly tell us which version is working the best. Whether that's on email, whether that's on landing pages, call to action, whatever it is, they will be able to tell which one works best. And you know what? The only reason to learn things that are working best is by looking at analytics. So if you've got two different landing pages you want to test, you will use analytics to see which one is working the best and why. Or call to actions, or maybe like a form on the website and so on. But again, there's so much more that goes behind the scene. But what we're doing today is somehow introducing the power of analytics, and hopefully you will extend that further. So the other benefit is improving efficiency. Again, you look into what's working, improving things as much as you can, identify things that are costing you way too much, and then either improving or getting someone else to do that work for you. Right? And again, that goes with the shipping, that goes with the fulfillment and everything else. Because if you've got a business side, part of your business selling in Spain as well, and you have only few people buying from you, but you have to have it because those are regular customers, you can start to identify or work with someone else that will do that bit of shipping for you instead of you having to rent all the warehouses and place and things like that. So you start to be more efficient. But looking at the numbers, that becomes quite important. Again, reduces costs. Because if you keep doing things same way every time, 24 hours, 365 days, and expect results, it's not going to happen. You have to do a continuous improvement, Kaizen model, continuous improvement. And analytics will help you to do continuous improvement because you will learn all the time how well you're doing. And then you step back and then say, okay, I can fix this thing. And then you run for a bit and go back and say, I can fix this thing because now I looked at it, right? And so it's really, it's a nice way of monitoring overall business. Now, MAT model is a quite nice model, but just gives you some ideas on some of the things and metrics to be thinking about. And it stands for acquisition, measurement, analysis, and testing. MAT just gives us a quick idea as to how much is going to cost us to acquire visitors. So that's when the marketing comes in. How much does it cost to get visitors into our website? Especially unique ones, right? And then in here you start to put together your cost for pay-per-click advertising, your cost for, engaging in social media, so the time is going to be cost. Maybe your cost for affiliate marketing, how much commission you're paying for those affiliates to bring some of the content to you and so on. The next one is going to be measurement of performance. So how well you perform in what specific activities on online digital advertising. You'll start to analyze the trend. So you really get a good understanding as to what's trending and where you need to be with business. Again, this is done using analytics. So now you can go to Google Trends for your own industry, top keywords, and Google will tell you what's trending. And that is quite a quick way to get a good understanding as to what's trending and what you need to be thinking about. You can do that with Twitter as well. All you have to do, go on Twitter, and see what's trending in terms of news. If you wanted to get some of that attention, you write an article around what's trending on Twitter and then share it straight away and then engage with that hashtag, and then maybe you can get some of that attention. Which means that you're joining the crowd on that huge discussion. For instance, whether it's around, I don't know, EU voting, right? Referendum, and so on, which is quite a hot debate, right? If you can write something around it, join the discussion, using the hashtag, raise the question, maybe you can get some of that traffic to your website. Now, all of that traffic is not going to be all qualified for you to get them to be readers, but a good amount of those people will probably sign up to what you're offering. And then, because you know quite a bit, you'll then test to improve. You'll start testing things regularly so you can improve. So MAT is quite a nice model to implement when using analytics, and really look into these specifics to go ahead and do a lot better job when it comes to your work, right? So that's why it's worthwhile getting a really good understanding. And my recommendation to you is that if you don't have a blog, set one up, just so that you can activate Google Analytics and you can get hands on it and actually learn how it works. It's going to be worthwhile because it's going to serve you, not just for your own business, but if you end up working for someone else as well. Whatever happens digitally, Google Analytics are going to be part of your work. So it's worthwhile you invest in learning how that works and actually become really good at it. It can be one of your unique selling points in your next job. But in addition to that, you can say, I'm so good with analytics that in my previous business or in my previous project or in my previous activity with my group work at university, we achieved this, or we've done this, or we went from a video that had 2,000 views to a video that had 200,000 views, and this is what we've done. Or we got a blogger that had only like 15 subscribers and now he's got 150 subscribers. So today, you don't have to be working for someone to gain experience. You can get experience from the comfort of your home, or for some of you, the comfort of your house, where you stand, right? And that's why you need to be building up on it. And don't worry too much of the fact that you're going to go in the industry, you don't have experience. Because all businesses are going to want experience, but they're not going to be worried too much. Whether that's experience you gain from your own comfort, they don't care. If you can tell them that you know what you're doing and you can help them do well online, that's it. You do have an opportunity. So, where web analytics fit in an organization? Well, just to be thinking about for a second, I mean, if it's a small business, there'll be pretty much one guy doing most of the things, but a more synchronized and more organized and structured business, analytics will fit in on the customer analytics or back office part, which looks at sales, operations, support, customer service, and the business plan. Now, web analytics should be in the heart of everything else we do, but of course, we need to be capturing absolutely all these other bits that we mentioned in there, from PR, social media, display advertising, email, offline marketing, search engine, web production affiliates, and customer analytics as well. So you can start to see what also Clifton is suggesting, that there are so many things that we can improve if we were to introduce and do well with analytics online. And again, as I said to you earlier, there are hundreds of tools out there. You don't even have to use Google Analytics if you don't want to. Right? But again, it's really worthwhile investing in learning the details of these tools. Because, again, digitally, this is the only way of learning what happens behind the scene. By just looking at the website or a user using a website, there is very limited stuff you can learn. Whereas with a traditional business, it's a lot easier because you can just see your customers coming in, doing all sorts of things, and you can get a pretty good idea as to what are the things that they do, right? And it's not going to be very hard. But online, you've got to have analytics put in place. Objectives and key results. So what are some of the things that you need to do? Of course, you need to identify what are some of the key objectives within your business. Is it to get more traffic in general? That's what every business aims for. To sell more products? So what is your objective, right? And then to see visitor engagement with a website. Okay, do you want to see an increased engagement with the website? Do you want to cross-sell, sell additional products to the one that customers are looking for, right? And again, to improve the customer experience overall. So these are some of the things that we think about. And these are some of the things that will tell you and will inform you which of those tools and analytics can be implemented. Now, of course, Google Analytics are not going to be useful for absolutely everything. There's a combined tools you should be using. And if when you end up going to outside in the industry and talking to businesses, you get a very clear idea that there are so many other tools that people are using, and Google Analytics is just one of them. But of course, it's just one very simple and quick way to get a good understanding and actually do well with all of these things. And these are essential to almost every business. Now, this leads us, once you've got specific objectives that are relevant and they're smart. So those objectives are specific, they're measurable, they're achievable, right? And also realistic and time-bound and action-oriented. You've got to have smart business objectives. Not shoot yourself in the foot and say, by the end of the week, I want to sell 1,000 products, because that's not going to work. You say, by the end of the week, I want to sell another 15 products. That's unrealistic. And then you start to identify things you can do to sell more of those products. Based on that, then you move on into thinking about KPIs. So key performance indicators. Key performance indicators should relate specifically to the set of objectives you've got within your business. And again, suggested KPIs when it comes to e-commerce can be around percentage of visitors from search engines, percent of conversion rate from search engines, percentage of visitors that add things to the shopping cart, ratio of visitors that complete a shopping cart over the number of visitors who started, percentage of visitors that leave a comment. So what's the amount of those people that visit in comparison to those who actually leave comments in the website? Percentage of visitors that complete a contact us form and click on mail to link. So there might be a pretty good amount of people that are not happy with your service, but they don't complain. So you are catching up some complaint, but not all of it. How many times you were very unhappy with the business but you did nothing? So you've got to have a process in place that sort of measures this sort of important metric, if you will, as to how much and how many of those customers are actually complaining. Average time spent on the website per visit. Again, we talked about this earlier, but that could be one of your KPIs. Because if you've got people spending very little time, that means that your bounce rate is quite high, which means that you're not going to get anyone to do anything. What can you do in 15, 20 seconds? That's probably the time it takes you to close the website and move to the other one, right? And so again, there are several reasons why that can happen, but some popular ones on the idea that you're probably attracting wrong visitors to the website, or what they're finding is not relevant to them, or maybe what you suggested you offer in your landing pages or in your social media is not what they're seeing in the website. How many times you've seen this 20% discount of a specific brand in social media, then you went to the actual website and there's no such a thing, right? So that is why we need to look into those data, look into those insights, and actually provide consistent support and consistent offerings without trying to trick customers, because they hate that. We hate to be able to be sent all over the place and being provided with irrelevant information. Again, percentage of internal searches into the website. So sometimes people can't find things that they're looking for, and then they go and search. But if your search box can't be found anywhere, which happens quite a lot, then it's not going to be used, then you're missing out on that customer. So knowing the amount of people that visit the website and those that actually search is quite important. In fact, sometimes it's a lot easier, those websites that got a very good search, it's a lot easier to find a product through search rather than going through all the subheadings and the navigation and subnav and all of that and then get to the section you want to get to. That's why now, especially fashion website, gives you that mouse scrolling over navigation. As soon as you scroll over, it gives you a drop-down navigation, then it's just quickly to get from the main menu to, I don't know, shoes or I don't know, running shoes or whatever it is for men. It's going to be a lot easier, right? But again, sometimes search does a really good job, but of course, that can be one of those KPIs that we need to be aware of. Conversion rate. Now, we talk about conversion rate, but again, visitors that turn into potential customers, that's what the conversion rates are. But of course, we know that conversion rate is still very small, so we still got a lot of work to do. And bounce visits again, those people that we attract and they're not spending much time on our website and they're going somewhere else. And then a pretty good amount of those people just abandon things altogether because they can't find the information they need. And some of them are staying on the website for a bit more, and then they get to this small percentage, which is the conversion rate. But a huge amount of those bounce somewhere else. In the checkout process, they just abandon the whole thing, the whole journey altogether. And again, more or less, you are left naked because there's no business. So, if you wanted to calculate the idea as to how conversion rate works, I strongly recommend this sort of activity. You can do something similar at your own time, but this is just to explain that a very small percentage and very small change or improvement or percentage in your conversion rate can mean load to your business, right? So if you look at an example, for instance, the first one is, in this case, it's just the effect, the conversion rate, like the economic effect. The first one is the conversion rate of, 3%. So conversion rate of 3%, so this guy is doing really, really well. So based on that conversion rate and based on those visitors he gets, in general, he's getting around $225,000 in the revenue. But with 1% of increase in the conversion rate from 3% to 4%, when you calculate, you get into $300,000, 1%, right? And you start to look into more details. I'm not going to get into that, but in general, even the marketing ROI, return on investment, can go from 30% to 50% by increase of 1% in conversion rate. So you're not just winning more sales, but you're actually being more productive with your marketing efforts, right? So that's why when we start to look at small conversion rates, even a tiny improvement makes a big difference, right? And you can look into other models as well, which can be useful to you, and I strongly recommend you calculate another one, but this is just a very simple economic, if you like, economic effect of a 1% increase in conversion rate for your business. In other words, if you could go to any e-commerce site in the UK or abroad and say, I can help you increase your conversion rate for 1%, and in return I want half of that money. So you could be making, what's that, $75,000. You can be making, and just say, I want half of it. I want around $37,500 in my pocket. Who's going to say no? They winning, you winning, that's no problem. But then you need to know, you've got to have all these skills of knowing key metrics you're going after, tools that you're using to monitor how well this business is doing, and then knowing clearly what can you improve and what can you change. But again, this is how much it's worth to look into analytics, and of course how to calculate a conversion rate. Cookies are not the cookies we eat in this case. They look nice. Cookies are small text files that are a web server transmits to another web browser, so that it can keep track of the user's activity. In other words, very simply, it saves a piece of code into your browser, so then it can report back to the company your surfing history. And just a while ago, the European Union made this a legislation, and now almost every website that you can surf into, they will ask you to save cookies into your browser, so then they can tell how well you're doing in terms of browsing. But of course, they can start to offer things that you've searched in the past. So if you've been searching for shoes recently in ASOS, and then you suddenly go to Amazon or Twitter or other places, they start to offer you ads around shoes automatically. Not because cookies of ASOS have been saved into your browser and they're learning about your history. Those cookies are being shared with other providers as well. And here you go, there is more advertising in front of you. Now, in general, this is fine, but there are times when cookies saved in your browser can do bad things too. So they can steal credit card details and information and so on and so forth. But like with everything in technology, there's always challenges on privacy and security all the time. Search engine relationships, of course, it's just to give you an idea as to how search engines are linked with each other. And of course, the solid link is the organic relationship. The broken one is direct relationship, and the pay-per-click relationship is the last one. You can navigate this at your own time, but it's just quickly to get a good understanding as to how things are connected online. Directories online are quite important, like large directory, which is Demos and Google and others, are quite important because as soon as you've added your website or your blog in there, it will be searchable by other search engines as well. So again, it makes it available online for your own time. Now, good free tools, we talked about this. Google Analytics definitely is one of those most popular tools out there. But there's a lot more to it. Google Analytics give you now is very, very good because it keeps improving all the time. And if you wonder why, because Google wants you to do well online. So if you do well online, you'll give them more money because you're buying more advertising from them. So it's all a vicious circle. It's all very well connected. And so that's why they're giving you this thing free, so then you can monitor absolutely everything from the traffic, live traffic, keywords, pay-per-click, social media, blog posts, comment, bounce rate, everything else. They're giving you all of this for free, so then if you do really well with business, the next thing you're going to do, you're going to go back to Google and say, by the way, I want to buy some more advertising for you, and it's a win-win. Which is a very clever idea. Now, of course, when it comes to Google Analytics, you start to look into everything from the content to search engine optimization to social campaigns, direct traffic, the source, all the details. We can't go into it right now, but I strongly recommend that if you don't have a blog, set one up just so then for a while you can start to look into this data and to this information that is useful to you. Of course, as I said to you earlier, there's so many things you can learn from Google Analytics, from social values to conversions, social plugins, everything else. The breakdown of traffic that comes from social media. This is quite a good one because based on your business, you set goals for yourself, and Google will help you achieve those goals, right? And they'll tell you, based on the goals you set yourself, right? This is how much you've achieved. So in this case, about this website, which is the membership-based website, these are some of the goals, and Google is telling you how well you do with every individual goals. How many people are renewing memberships, how many people are getting new memberships, and how many are donating, and what's the time spent into the website, and has that been improved. So, in other words, that's quite good when you can actually set yourself goals to improve it as you go along within your business. Clicky is another monitoring tool online, similar to Google. It's quite powerful, quite big, and some people use it all the time. GoSquared is another monitoring tool that helps you look into traffic, overall content that drives traffic to your website from across the web. Woopra is another one, and again, this is just a nice visual that actually gives you an idea as to where you are driving most traffic from, and just quick geographically gives you a very quick idea as to where can you be with business. So if you're focused in North America, and then you see Europe growing up, then the next move, you know where it's going. It's going to be in Europe. So it somehow informs your decision making. Analytics done well inform your decision making. That's what we're trying to tell you, right? And if you've done really well, you keep informing your decision making, so very soon you'll be in a quite sustainable, if you will, business model, which is what Amazon is right now. Because Amazon is brilliant at looking at analytics, Amazon is brilliant at improving things all the time. Alexa is a very, very good tool, and again, built by Amazon. Do you see why? Because Alexa looks at pretty much all the indexes of the websites online. Now it looks at how well your website is doing in comparison to your competitors, how well your website stacks against others, what is the target audience that your website is attracting to. You can compare things online, you can compare reach, the traffic and everything else. You wonder why it was purchased by Amazon. Because it just tells you, and this is just one of the companies, they purchased others that have got to do with analytics as well. But Alexa is a very, very good tool. And it's not very expensive to actually sign up for it whenever you need to use it as well. And again, if you look at it, so for instance, I'm looking at ASOS in this case, it gives you the breakdown of traffic and also the breakdown of demographics as well, which is quite good. Similar web is expensive, but again, this gives you even more sort of information and on comparisons and mobile apps as well for e-commerce. For instance, I just took this example from Similar Web on traffic source for ASOS, similar to what we've done with Alexa. And it gives you the traffic, where it comes from, and so on. It gives you the traffic of subdomains, so which subdomain of ASOS does very well. And again, there are hundreds of other analytics out there that you are left to play around with. For the social influence, is a social mention, so around social media, that gives you an idea as to how well you do online. From strength to sentiment, the ratio of good and bad, and of course, the overall number of authors normally divided by the number of mentions, which is the reach on the content you published. Hootsuite is a super powerful tool when it comes to managing your entire social media activities for your own business. Sprout Social is quite a big one as well. It gives you an idea to demographics and who are those users that using your services, engaging with you. And as I said to you earlier, if you can't measure it, you can't improve it. So your analytics will inform your decision making. And if you've got a really good process and routine to inform your decision making through analytics, there are chances that you'll do quite well with your activities online.